Hey, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our Wednesday Ephphatha Bible study. My name is John. I'm the pastor of First United Methodist Church in Mountain City and Trade United Methodist Church in Trade, Tennessee. Well, I want to welcome you to a sunny Wednesday, the December the 30th. It is. We've still got bits of snow hanging out in the corners, but it's overall melting away. I think it's gonna be 50 today, so it's really nice outside. Well, my mug of the day is an oldie but a goodie. This is a mug from the Johnson Space Center outside of Houston. I went there 23 years ago, visiting Perkins Seminary. Well, I went to Dallas to visit Perkins Seminary, and then we went to Houston to visit the Space Center. I may be a little bit slow. I just realized when Allie gave me the coffee mug, the space coffee mug for Christmas, that I have a subset of space mugs. So I've put them all together in one spot. There are 9 of them. I'm not going to drink out of this one because it's 20 some odd years old, and I'm not sure how it would handle being washed, and it needs to be scrubbed. So, but I'm really proud of this mug. It reminds me of a really good time with the family, a good visit with Perkins. You ended up going to Duke, but Perkins is a really top flight seminary. It was a really hard decision, but that turned into a really cool trip too. We went to Johnson Space Center and went down to the Gulf Coast to visit family and stuff. So it was a good trip. Okay. And naturally, right before Bible study time, I inhaled something, so I've been having coughing fits. So I don't have the Rona. I'm just got something in my throat. So bear with me, please. All right. So today we're going to begin looking at the 10 Commandments. We're going to start Exodus chapter 20, and we're going to spend some time with this because the 10 Commandments are things that everybody knows about, but not everybody really thinks about. That's not quite right. Everybody knows what they say pretty much. They may not. You may or may not have it memorized. You don't need to. But generally, people kind of know what they say. And that kind of know what they say leads us, I think, into a lot of bad assumptions. And we'll get into some of those. But we're going to spend some time wrestling with these. And if you have questions or thoughts or comments, please leave comments and we can respond to those. Or if you want to shoot me an email, feel free. Sue is joining us. Hey, Sue. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for your faithfulness. And like I said, if you guys have questions or anything like that, shoot me a text, leave me a comment, and we'll deal with it either then or maybe the next time if I have to do a little bit of research. So, having said that, let's go ahead and dive on into Exodus chapter 20. Well, remember last week, Moses was assembling all the people. God said to consecrate the people. God was going to reveal himself to the people. He was going to show the people that Moses was indeed his trusted emissary. Yeah, that's the right word. To tell the people what God had said. And so the people are assembled for that. And now God is going to give the people instruction. Then God spoke all of these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall not have no other gods before me. Now, the Hebrew here could also mean besides me. And I think our English rendition it makes it sound like there are other gods and that we need to have the one true God be the first and foremost. But in reality, God is saying, don't worship anything besides me. And we may not claim to worship things, but we've got to be very careful that while we may not say the words, our actions may indicate other things. But anything we put before God is something that we worship more than we do God. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength is what It's what the law says and how Jesus interpreted it, how everybody interpreted it back then. And so you shall have no other gods. Just kind of stop there. You shall have no other gods. Don't worship anything else. And when you do that, you can other things start falling into place, and that's good. But we thinking, but what about my family? What about my other commitments? Yeah, all those things fall into place. Worshiping God does not preclude taking care of your family or dealing with emergencies or something like that. Being faithful to God means honoring those responsibilities. For example, if your kids got sick on Sunday morning, I'll be bold to say that God would understand staying home and taking care of them instead of coming to worship. So our God is reasonable about that, but at the same time, we don't want to be making excuses to find things, excuses for ourselves or rationalizations. We're good at rationalizations. Try to explain away why we are putting other things first. I have somebody stopping by the church. Hello. So, all right. Verse 4, chapter 20, verse 4. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that it is in the water but under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Okay, let me pause there for just a second. Don't make yourself an idol. An idol is anything that you would, any physical, tangible thing that you would worship as God. We have all sorts of symbols, like crosses and other things, but we treat them with reverence for what they represent, but they are not God. In the ancient world, and maybe still in some places today, it was very common that the primary temple of whatever god would have a statue or something, and people believed that was the god in that place. And so we're told to not do that. Our God is not physical in the sense that we are. So having tangible things to worship, saying that they are God is his heresy, is basically. So how do we understand communion? How do we understand, well, let's talk about communion. We do believe that the bread and grape juice, bread and wine, are for us the body and the blood of Christ. They are tangible symbols that have been empowered by God through the power of the Holy Spirit to act for us as God. That the body, the bread and wine become for us the body and blood of Christ as we partake of it, as we eat it, as we take it into ourselves. We are symbolically taking into our very beings and making part of us God's action in the world. So it's a very powerful symbol of being one with what God is doing. And our symbols are, we talk about empty symbols, and we think modern humans tend to downplay the importance of symbol and symbolic actions and rites, RITES, and things like that. And we humans are creatures of symbol and action, and we are made in a very real sense. We're made to worship. We are made to act out our faith in certain rituals and certain ceremonies that puts our beliefs and our actions and our words all in harmony together, so that what we believe and what we live are one and the same. And we have lots of different ways of doing that. So we do all of that, understanding that they are symbols, powerful symbols, but that God is not tied to one particular symbol, one particular image, or things like that. We can use images or symbols like crosses and whatnot to remind us of God, and especially the way God has acted, but they are not actually God there in that place. Back in the early church days, I mean, like, oh gosh, in the hundreds, when was that? The East-West Schism was 1100 something or another. I didn't know we were going to be going here, or I would have studied that. But anyway, the Great Schism between the Western Roman Church and the Eastern Constantinople Church was really brought about. Okay, try to simplify this a little bit. The Eastern Church, the Eastern Orthodox churches, have what they call icons, and they are not idols, but they're symbols plus. They are images that contain a set of specific images, a specific way of presenting them. They're prayed over. So they're not idols. That was the big argument between the East and the West. They're not idols, but they are given much more reverence than your typical painting of Jesus in the church. They're treated much more like we generally treat a cross, especially a cross in a church, that we treat it with respect for what it represents. And so that's not idolatry, but that is using the symbols of the faith in a way that enhances the worship. Candy the Wee Service Dog is in the house. Hey, how are you doing today? I appreciate you being here. And Linda's here. Hey, Linda. Glad you're with us today. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments or anything, type them in and I'll try to deal with them, or you can send me a text or email. We can do that too. All right. So I was in 5. Here we go. Let me start at verse 5 again. You shall not bow down to them, the idols, or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. So God very clearly says here, okay, I will punish the children for the sins of the parents. We don't like that. That's not good news for us. So how do we understand that? Well, first off, we want to remember that as New Testament Christians, we are in we're under the new covenant, the covenant in Christ's blood. This is the old covenant. The law of Moses is tied up with the old covenant, and we're not beholden to the old covenant, to the law of Moses. We don't have to obey this law as it's laid out. The law of Christ, the law of love, has supplanted it. It's still good stuff. It's still the Word of God, but we're not responsible for it. We're responsible we are responsible for doing what Christ said, which is summed up in love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So I'm thankful that we're not under these laws. The Old Testament law was given to basically teach the people, one, how to be a people. That before that they were a loose association of families. I don't think they understood themselves as the people of God, the Hebrews or the Israelites. They knew they had these connections, but I don't think they saw themselves as a separate nation in a very real sense. So giving the law helped give them identity, as in we are the people who follow this law. We are the people who follow God. And it was training them in how to be obedient, training them how to live faithfully as God told them to live. So that was a part of the reason for that. And so we're not responsible for that anymore. We are responsible for loving God and loving neighbor, and that's plenty hard enough. So soapbox coming up. Sorry. It baffles me that Christians are so insistent on putting the Ten Commandments everywhere. I mean, we don't obey the entire law of Moses. I mean, have you had shrimp lately? I have. It was delicious, and I don't feel the least inward condemnation for doing that. I received it gratefully as one of God's good gifts of food for that day. So we don't obey the law of Moses. We shouldn't be insisting others obey the law of Moses. I would much rather see us Christians insist on putting the Beatitudes up. That's much more in keeping with who we understand God to be through the lens and the revelation of Jesus Christ. We follow Jesus. We honor Moses. We learn from the Old Testament. That's why we're studying it. But we are not people of the Old Covenant. We are people of the New Covenant. So I'm thankful for that. We don't have to worry about God punishing the children for the iniquity of the parents to the third and fourth generation. But even then, here in verse 6, I mean, it says, he punishes the children for the sins of the parents, but for 2 and 3 generations, but then showing love, steadfast love, to 1,000 generations for those who are faithful to him. So the love and the mercy and the generosity is 1,000 times more than the punishment. So I think even in this, God is showing his tendency toward mercy and toward love. Okay, soapbox over. Sorry. All right, verse 7. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for God will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. So we generally take this to mean don't say bad words. And there's some okay, that's not bad, but that's not the only thing that we're saying here. And throughout our study of the Old Testament, and on Sunday morning, you'll kind of hear an echo of this, is that we want to make sure that we're not assuming that we know what this says, what this means. And two, we want to see how this plays out in the larger community. That God is not just working for us alone, God is working for all of us. We all benefit from it, and God loves us each individually, but God is also working for the good of the community, for all of us. So, wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God. I think this is a much better translation than the KJV. Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. Don't make wrongful use. Don't misuse the name of God. What jumps to mind? Don't use the word of God to give excuse for our own misbehaviors or lack of love. A lot of people have said very hateful things, claiming to say them in love and tearing people down, and that's not what Jesus did. We can't claim to be Christ followers and act in a way that Jesus wouldn't act, or Jesus specifically said for us not to act. So we can't use the Bible to justify hate, to justify excluding people. We can't use the Bible to justify our own sins. It's real easy, brothers and sisters, and we've got to be careful about this. It's real easy to point out the sins of others and the failings of others and use that as an excuse to make ourselves feel better. Well, at least I'm not as bad as that person or whatever. We need to make sure that we're looking inwardly and looking at all the ways that we've fallen short of the glory of God. If we say we have not sinned, well, the truth is not in us, and we are liars, as it says in 1 John. So we want to make sure that we're not using the Bible as a tool to lift ourselves up, to put ourselves up above others. That's not what the Bible really says. So don't misuse the name of God. And that means being honest with ourselves and with others. All right. 8. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. All right, we can spend a lot of time talking about Sabbath keeping. For a lot of folks, Sunday is just another day. And okay, we're not going to finish this up today, obviously. But Sabbath keeping is setting aside time for God, and there is a lot going on here. God very careful. I mean, they don't have towns yet, as God mentions, but God knows us. If we're told not to do something, it'll occur to all of us or most of us to say, well, if I can't do it, I'll just hire somebody to do it for me and get around the rule. But so God says no. The rules the rules apply to everybody. You can't get around them, and kind of ran down the list of folks, the obvious choices that say, well, if I can't do something, I'll still get what I want by making somebody else do it for me. So no, that's not the purpose. The purpose of Sabbath is to rest. And for we current generations, we don't know what it's like to work. Gail and I are watching a lovely series called Victorian Farm. It's a PBS series. We're getting it through Amazon Prime, and it's a few years old. But these three people are living on a Victorian estate in England, living as Victorians. 1880s is the time frame. So no electric power, animal power. There was an age of industrialization, so there's a lot of farm machinery coming out during this time frame. So they're not doing everything by hand, but there's a lot of animal-powered machinery like hay mowers and things like that, coal ranges. It's really interesting. It's a fascinating time, but those folks worked, and I think it'd kill us. I don't think we're as tough as our ancestors were. But we needed time to rest. We had to be made to rest. And in seminary, we were taught that part of the being forced to rest is to rub our noses in the fact that the world goes on without us, to force us to see that even if I'm not out there doing my thing, not out there tending the crops, they still grow. It's not all up to us. We're not that important. So that's part of the reason of Sabbath. And another huge part is a worship component that we are to reflect on a holy day. Candy, you've got a question. Let me finish this thought and I'll deal with your question. Love questions. The way the world is set up, a lot of us have to work on Sundays. I work every Sunday, and I love it. I absolutely do. But I do take a break during the week to rest and to think of other things. And I will confess that I love to go out to eat on Sunday after church. That just makes me happy. And the coronavirus has put a kind of crimp in that. But because of my choices, there are hundreds of people who have to work. There are servers. There are bus boys, bus people, table cleaners, cooks. There are folks who have to deliver food. There are all sorts of folks who have to work because of my choices. So number one, soapbox number two. Y'all are getting 2 soapboxes today. Christians, especially Christians on Sunday after church, need to be the most polite, the most patient, and the best tippers these servers have ever seen. And sadly, that is not the case. Servers hate the after church crowd because Christians are more hungry and grumpy, for one. They don't tip real well. So don't do that. Tip well. Be a good patient. Be a good customer. Be kind to your server because he or she is just trying to make a living just like we are. And so They can't take Sabbath, and we can't look down on them for not taking Sabbath because we're making them work. But we all need to take Sabbath sometime. And for me and for a lot of us who don't have physically demanding jobs, do physical work, our Sabbath rest may not be sitting down in an easy chair, although there should be some of that, some just stopping what you're doing. But our modern Sabbath may involve yard work or rock climbing or something physical to be a counterbalance or a change of pace from sitting sitting in an office most of the week. And yeah, I need to get up and move. I need to get up and move more. But anyway, so Sabbath is a change of pace, a refocusing on God, refocusing away from all our worldly weekday cares, and a reminder that the world will go on without us. All right, Candy, you asked, can inherited illnesses, disease, and disabilities, okay, hold on a sec. I've heard about all these conditions are from the Old Testament. How do you talk to people who believe this way? And Linda says, thank you for your comments on Christian behavior. Yes, something I believe very strongly in. Can diseases and disabilities can run in the family. And it's really interesting that some like addictive behaviors, there is good science that can be inherited. It certainly can run in families, and we can have a long discussion about environment. Are behaviors inherited or modeled for what kids see in their environment? The answer is both. People can have a tendency towards certain behaviors or certain addictions, and certain illnesses do run in families. Is that God punishing us? Especially here in the light of the New Testament, I don't think so. It can certainly be our cross to bear, something that we have to deal with. But I don't think I don't think God punishes us in the sense of sending diseases through generations of the family. That's pretty much what he said here in the Old Testament. But remember, we're New Testament Christians. Flip side, there's a flip side to that too. We want to be real careful about that. We can't. If any of you smoke or have smoked, forgive me, but we can't smoke 2 packs a day for 40 years, get lung cancer, and say, "Oh, why has God afflicted me with this lung cancer?" No, it doesn't work that way. We have to have responsibility for our own choices. We got to admit, we've got to take responsibility for the things that we've done to us. And I think that if we were to do something to ourselves and then say, "Well, God has smitten me with this," that's misusing the name of this, misusing the name of God. That we do things to ourselves, and we need to own up to it and not blame God for it. So, Candy, I hope that kind of answers your questions. I think diseases and things can be inherited. I don't think God inflicts us with them, but I do think God cares very deeply about how we deal with them and how we deal with others with them. Let's see. Oh, Gail's in. Hey, Gail. Glad you're here. Let's see. Okay. And curse of generations. Yeah, that's true, and that's pretty much exactly what we were looking at in Exodus 20, verse 5. But again, in light of us being New Testament Christians in the New Covenant, I think we need to be very cautious in that kind of language. There are certain families who have generational difficulties, generational illnesses, or generational patterns of addiction or abuse or things like that. And again, the discussion about, is it inherited or is it caught by being modeled in front of the kids? It's a both and. There's no real clear answer. I just want to be real careful that we don't blame God for our bad choices. Yeah, that's it. We don't want to blame God for our bad choices and consequences for our our actions. Okay. Going a little bit longer than usual. I think we'll go ahead and stop here. We're going to start with chapter 20, verse 12. Honor your father and mother. That's a whole nother kettle of fish, a whole nother deep sea that we're going to be dealing with. Because families, you love them, and sometimes they make you crazy, and that's okay. All right. So I hope you found this interesting. Please leave comments and questions. Thank you, Candy and others, for the questions and comments. I appreciate it. And we'll carry on next week. And this Sunday we'll be in Ephesians. And oddly enough, we'll be talking about some of these same types of issues. So I hope you'll either tune in or come worship with us. And until then, I hope you guys have a blessed week. And we'll talk to you later.